everybody. Welcome back to Political Roundtable. I'm Doug Miles along with Gary Schuster. And Gary, since we did this last time, a lot's been going on. Of course, the big story, the Gulf oil spill. And last night, President Obama talking to the nation about it. And he has been criticized for not being very verbal about it. And last night, I guess he answered those critics, didn't he?
Well, he got more aggressive, Doug. I don't know. I've seen things written and said that he was trying to address three different audiences: the public, BP, and other world leaders, sort of showing that this is a global issue. This oil spill could move through the Gulf, around the tip of Florida, and even up the East Coast, and then the currents take it. I mean, it wouldn't be surprising to see this in England at some point. I mean, you just don't know where it's going to go. And so he was addressing a number of different audiences. He wanted to be aggressive because the poll numbers are down. And so he wanted to show something. He doesn't want this to be the Katrina that Bush had to weather. And so he's trying to stop it now. But the critics are saying that he should have done this a long time ago. He should have had this speech. I think he's been down 4 times to New Orleans and to the Gulf to look at things. But he should have been the second day. He should have been down there. Wasn't. They thought it was sort of going to go away. Rahm Emanuel, his chief of staff, was in Israel on vacation. They sort of thought it would pass. It didn't. They misread it. And so now they're trying to catch up. 45%, and they poll every day. And so 45% today said that the speech didn't do much for him. Mm-hmm. So he's still at about break even. He's going to have to do more. And what that's going to be, I don't know.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. The approval ratings have been low even before this oil spill.
Sure.
About 2 years in office, roughly.
He's
put in some of his plans, or at least tried to, the health care plan, of course, the tax bill that's still being debated. But a lot of people that even voted for him now are starting to criticize him, which I thought was interesting.
Well, the thing is, he hasn't finished anything. He said he was going to go to Washington and finish those 3 things.
Right.
And now he's got the oil spill on top of it, which sort of goes into the energy policy issue down the line. I mean, this is a perfect time, would have been a perfect time last night, for him to say, to try and gain Republican support, this is the time for us to try and get together to stop these kind of things from depending on oil, bring all wind, solar, nuclear, coal, all these things together and try and build a coalition. But he didn't do it. And so he's being criticized for that he missed an opportunity here. We'll have to see how that plays out.
You, of course, covered both President Carter, President Reagan in the White House. Not quite to this extent, maybe with an oil spill, but they've certainly had their energy policies they've had to deal with and catastrophes. How would you kind of compare what Obama's doing now to what those 2 presidents did?
Well, it wasn't as severe then as it is now, but they had their issues with energy policies, and it's different. It's a different. This is a different animal, really. This is threatening coastlines, wildlife, other shores. I see it's only about 20 miles off of Cuba. I don't know what that regime is going to do about this. And, it's moving south, could get down to in the oil country, into Venezuela and Colombia. We're sort of stuck. This is a big thing. They didn't have that in the Reagan and Carter administrations. They had their own issues, but it wasn't this. But we've always had energy policy issues. It's why the Department of Energy was created, thinking they would do something about this. I worked for Union Pacific at one time, and we had a big oil company and did deep water drilling. I was out on those rigs in the Gulf that Union Pacific owned. They're dangerous. They're dangerous because there's 35,000 of them out there. They built them over 40 years.
Right.
So they've had not a lot of catastrophes, but they've had their issues. And I think you have to be much more careful in doing this kind of thing, which is what these energy policy issues sort of maintain, that you have to watch what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So I think that I saw somebody today, the former CEO of Shell Oil, said that why don't we go, there's a Jones Act apparently that the unions got in place for keeping these rigs unionized. You can't bring anybody else in. Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, all those countries over there have these kind of issues with spills and flame ups. They could bring over ships that do this and
help
bring
out.
them into the Gulf and help out. I mean, if you're going to try and do everything you can, you ought to go to Congress and say, let's suspend the Jones Act. I'm going to do it by executive proclamation or whatever it is, and we're going to bring these ships over and get the Saudis and others to donate and go in against these lands, these wetlands, and suck up this oil as it comes in. They know how to do it.
Right.
That's where this stuff's, that's why we're drilling out here, is because
Sure.
we need oil. They know what they're doing.
That goes to a political issue where you're going against the unions and
Absolutely.
Democrat.
And you got an election coming in November, and do you want to have that on you? So there's a lot of things here that are below the political surface, not just the surface of the Gulf, but below the political
Right.
surface that are important here.
Let's talk about the political impact of the oil spill, the natural impact to the environment. That's obvious, but the political impact, how do you think that's going to affect not only the midterm elections coming up, but local elections here in Florida? That's going to be a big issue, isn't it?
It is. It depends on how long this goes, but you're looking already at 2 months before they even get a cap on this thing, they think. They're supposedly spilling 60,000 gallons a day out of
twice as much as they
is what they
thought.
said it was. And so there's a lot of things that sort of move in. It's not on the Florida coast yet, but it's close. Governor Christ was out with the president the other day walking down a Florida beach. It's not there yet, but it's possibly coming that way. If not north, south down by the Keys as the currents take it around between Key West and Cuba. Mm-hmm. And so you have that race, the governor's race here. You got congressional races where people are involved in whether they favor offshore drilling or not. And everybody's sort of taking a different look. There's a moratorium on it right now here, but the issue is still there.
Right.
So you have those races. You have local races in cities like Sarasota and Bradenton and other towns that are coastal towns that are wondering where this is going to go and how dangerous it's going to be to wildlife and the estuaries that come in off the Gulf. And so all those things play into the politics of this disaster.
Yeah, if you're a Republican, traditionally you're more for big business and drilling offshore,
Mm-hmm.
and finding those other ways until we get
Yeah,
off of oil.
right.
And now you have to temper that, don't you?
You sure do.
If you're running for office.
You
this
sure
fall.
do. You got to figure a way, and a lot of people are going to be double speaking here because they've been against it.
More than usual.
For it, now they got to be against it. Exactly, exactly. Yeah. So I mean, it's going to be very interesting as to what happens as we get closer to the primaries in August and then the general in November.
Let's talk a little bit about the midterm elections, which do come up this fall. Right now, if you look at the polling, Republicans big advantages right now. Do you think there's going to be a big turnover in the House, or what do you think right now?
There could be. I mean, off-year elections like this one, off presidential elections are usually favor the out party, mm-hmm. and they'll pick up some seats. There's been talk that the Republicans think they can pick up control of the House, maybe even control of the Senate. I don't think so.
Tough, I think. Senate would be tough, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. It's always
House,
tough.
They have a chance, I think.
It's always tough. But there have been signs that they have some chances with some of these incumbents being, Bennett in Utah and what's his name, Arlen Specter in Pennsylvania. Reed, who's got trouble. There are other people who have trouble. Barbara Boxer's got a challenge out there now from these two women. The woman who
That'd
ran.
be an interesting race.
Carly Fiorina and the gal who ran eBay are both running for Senate and governor out there. So there's a lot of challenges, a lot of interest in it, a lot of decent candidates, I think, on both sides.
Right.
And the Tea Party, you throw in the Tea Party, you don't know where or which way they're going to go because they go Republican, they go Democratic. It doesn't make any difference. They're looking for the best person, supposedly. And you end up with a case like you had in Massachusetts, where Teddy Kennedy's seat was lost to a Republican because of Tea Party activity. So you put that together with the issues of the oil spill and the off-year election, just the off-year election odds of the out party winning some seats.
Right.
And it'll be close. And if Obama's numbers continue to sag because of the way he handles this and the way people perceive it, you're going to have more trouble than what they think.
You could